It's gonna hurt me. Can you give me a baby wipe? Target to Walmart to right. Not a blinding highlight. Welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about palettes. That was the last thing you guys really requested after concealers. I asked you guys on a poll actually if you guys wanted to see concealers or palettes. Concealers definitely won. But I'm going to do the palettes today, and once I actually sat down and pulled out what palettes I wanted to talk about, it got difficult for a second because there's a lot of palettes at the drugstore now that are actually really good, but since the high end kicked it up, the drugstore was like, nah, we gotta keep up too. So there's a lot of great things at the drugstore now. So as I was picking out these palettes, I was like, I really have to talk about the ones that I absolutely love and I can really endorse. There was some that almost made it but just didn't. So trust that these are the ones I really believe in. I believe in these. I would not tell you guys spend your money on this if I absolutely didn't believe in them. Some of these are actually kind of pricey even for drugstore, but one of the reasons we love drugstore is because it's way more convenient. Drugstore is something you can find literally at a drugstore, which they're technically right around the corners. Rite Aids, Walgreens, Walmarts, Targets, things that are really in our reach that we don't have to drive to a mall or an Ulta for, or we have to wait for online shipping to get. I got down to, I think technically 4, but they're really good. I'm just gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna go ahead and start with actually one of the most recent ones that I've fallen in love with, and it's really funny because you guys have actually watched me fall in love with this palette. First impressions video where I first touched this palette in front of you guys, and you guys saw me be literally wowed by it, and I wasn't expecting it at all because this is one of those brands that, like, you think of it and you think it's your grandma's basic makeup brand. Like, you always saw it but you never thought too much of it, but lately this is one of the brands that has completely done a 180 in the best of ways, and I'm talking about CoverGirl. CoverGirl has absolutely blown my mind this past year. I was gonna say this past few months, but no, it's been a good steady year of it just putting out hit after hit after hit and been doing real good things lately, and these Katy Kat palettes are one of the heaviest hitters. Most impressive things they've come out with. The reason being is CoverGirl palettes in the past were super chalky, and I mean like bad. I mean it was just basically colored powder. The minute it touched your eyelid, it was like, what the did I just put on there? And it was gone, and it didn't blend out properly. It was chalky, it was gritty, it wasn't creamy, it was not pigmented at all, and even though there was some pigment, it would eventually get lost in the excruciating blending process. I know what you guys are thinking. You're really ripping this one a new one. Now say some nice things. Okay, these palettes, however, amazing. The way you can test out a good eyeshadow palette is testing out the mattes, because if the mattes are bad, I can't F with a palette that has bad mattes. I use mattes way too much, but the mattes in this one are really not bad, guys. The blendability, I will take blendability sometimes over pigment because at least I can choose how much pigment I can put on. You know, I'm not going to get an overwhelming amount at first. I'm going to gradually build up my pigment, and that's fine as long as I can blend it. A gritty eyeshadow that I can't blend is one thing that I just can't stand and I will not have. One of the things that absolutely shocked me when I first tried this palette was the shimmers. The shimmers have this crazy formula. They feel wet to the touch and they're so stupid pigmented and so effing creamy. I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys on my hand right now. Like, look how intense they are. That's this gold right here. I think this is like a mauve lilac shade. I'll go ahead and do this one right over here. But goddamn, like goddamn, it looks like I melted jewelry on my hand, and this is a drugstore product. And when I tell you that these are so creamy, I'm telling you, like, they feel wet to the touch. They feel like I'm dipping my hand into a liquid eyeshadow, but they're completely powder. They're completely dry, and the pigment on them is outstanding. Look at that. This was one of those moments where I was like, okay, CoverGirl, I see you. You're doing good things. You're doing big things. You're trying. You're getting there. I'm probably going to get some ish for this too, but I think this is the best thing Katy Perry has done in a while. Next palette. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the e.l.f. Mad for Matte 2 palette. This palette was also something that I first tried on camera. The very first time I tried this palette was for a full face e.l.f. tutorial, which I want to do an updated one. I want to do a lot of updated full face makeups. I want to do a full face Maybelline. I know for sure I want to do a full face e.l.f. I want to do a full face Kokie Cosmetics for sure. That's one I've never done. Let me know if you guys would be interested, and also which one you guys want to see first. But I definitely want to do another e.l.f. one because e.l.f. is another brand that lately, goddamn, taking heads and not taking names or whatever the hell. However the hell that expression goes.
Not a native speaker.
But they've just been doing so flippin' good lately. Even with their skincare. Some of the best skincare I've tried from the drugstore is from e.l.f. BT Dubs, I know you guys are asking for a drugstore skincare routine. That is coming. I just really had to gather the products that are drugstore, that I use, that I trust, that I can absolutely recommend to you guys. Because I'm not going to recommend you guys shit. That's one thing I'm not going to do on this channel. As I mentioned for the last palette, the one way you can test if a palette is going to be good is by testing out the mattes. And if the mattes are crap, do not buy the palette. But this palette's completely matte. It's called the Matte for Matte 2. I really like this palette. This palette, again, one of those things that super impressed me. Like, goddamn, I couldn't believe what I was using when I was using it. Yeah, there are some shadows in here that don't blend out the greatest, but they're not terrible. And for the price, I think this is a $10 palette, you guys. And you get a good amount of product and a good amount of shade range. These lighter colors, let me tell you, holy crap, do they blend out beautifully. They blend out without a lot of effort. They blend out effortlessly.
Not a native speaker.
There you go. This is one of those palettes that I want to recommend to any student out there, any beginner out there, because if any palette is going to teach you to do a basic, super easy smoky eye, it's this one, and it's not going to cost you a goddamn dime. Well, it's going to cost you a few times. It's going to cost you 10 bucks, but it's better to practice with products like this that you know you could use, that you know you can mess up, that you know you can just go through easily for the practice, because it didn't cost you an arm or a leg. You know, I wouldn't recommend you guys going out to buy a naked palette to practice with. This is a good beginner palette. This is a good trusty teaching palette. Like, if you've never done a smoky eye before in your life, this is a palette that I would absolutely get. I really want to use it to do like a beginner how-to smoky eye for anybody out there. If you guys are interested in seeing that, let me know. But this is such a great palette, and I'm going to stop rambling about it. Another palette I want to talk about that I think I'm not going to say this one shocked me, because Milani really is one of the best brands that the drugstore has to offer. Very few times has Milani ever disappointed me. When I think of Milani products, I think of like the higher end at the drugstore. They don't really lack in anything, but the thing is, they do come with a heavier price tag than everything else. But that's understandable, because they do come harder than most anything else at the drugstore. But their eyeshadow palettes, I think, are something that I wouldn't scoff at anybody investing in, because there's definitely some eyeshadow palettes at the drugstore that I would not ever, even if it's dirt cheap, I would never recommend to you guys to use, because they're just not good. They're just gonna eat up your money and do nothing for you. I would rather you guys spend a little bit more and actually get your money's worth and not have to throw away product, which is you losing money in the end game. Simple economics. And this is one of the palettes that I think everybody should get for this time of year. If you only shop drugstore, if you are just learning how to do makeup, if you need an easy go-to makeup palette. Like, if you're somebody who really doesn't wear a lot of makeup, but you just want a makeup palette to have for everyday use that you can trust, that you don't really have to think about. It's a minimalistic palette, so you don't have a lot of options, so you don't get overwhelmed. This is one of those palettes. This is the Everyday Eyes eyeshadow collection. Now, this is one of those palettes that comes with like ideas of eyeshadows to do on the back. It's a good thing to have if you really are a beginner. It literally gives you guidelines, kind of idea of what to do with your makeup when you buy this palette. They're really not that expensive. I'm talking about them like they're super expensive, but they're not. But they are more pricey than most at the drugstore. So I'm going to talk about the formula real quick. The formula is one of those things that I really can't get over. The mattes in this eyeshadow palette are so good. They're so creamy. They're so blendable. They have the perfect amount of pigment, which again, for my beginners out there, will not overwhelm you. It's a formula made for beginners. I feel like the shimmers are also right there. The shimmers are kind of weird because they are a dry shimmer. These are not as creamy as the CoverGirl eyeshadows. These are a little bit more powdery, a little bit more dry, but that doesn't mean they don't have payoff, because look at that, it definitely has payoff. It's just a different formula, but it works really well. I actually really like the shimmers in this palette. They have a ton also. This is just one of the options you can get, but I really like this one, especially for this time of year. The reason I really like this one is because it's so easy to use. This actually lived in my makeup bag for a really long time until I just had to switch it out because I had to use different things. But when I was in a rush and I really just had to do my makeup on the go, this is one of the palettes I always kept in my makeup bag because it was so easy to use. I knew it was gonna work. I knew what to expect, and I wasn't gonna get get overwhelmed and be like, well, what kind of look do I do right now? Like, I knew what I was going to do because it didn't give me a lot of options. It was that kind of minimalist mentality. I love Milani products, like I've been saying. I think Milani is one of the greatest brands in the drugstore. Shout out to Milani for being dope. Next brand. This video is not sponsored. I feel like I have to say that with this brand because I know I get a lot of PR from them, but this video is not sponsored by them. I love Pixie. Pixie is one of my favorite brands out there. I'm speaking about them because I want to speak about them. I mean, I'm very grateful that they send me PR, but even if they didn't send me these palettes, you guys, I would be speaking about these palettes. Like, that's how in love I am with these palettes. And I did double check and make sure that these are still available to you guys, but I am talking about these Pixie eyeshadow palettes. My God, these are one of those palettes that I think even scared high-end brands. Like, once these dropped, I feel like high-end brands are like, the drugstore's coming for us, guys. Like, they're not messing around. They know what they're doing because of these palettes. These are the Pixie times It's Judy Time, It's Eye Time palette. I've raved a bunch about this eyeshadow palette, like a bunch. In every tutorial I've ever used this palette in, I raved about it for a cute minute, but that's because it's so good. I mean, just look at it. This is a warm tone girl's wet dream. I'm not even gonna censor that one. This palette is so universal. It's such a good formula. It's ridiculous that it's at the drugstore, yet it's such high-end quality. Pixie is a little bit more expensive than most. I've talked about Pixie before and how it's like always going to be at the VIP section at Club Target, getting bottle service, getting crazy, getting bitches. But it's for a reason. They consistently deliver amazing products, and when they paired up with Judy from It's Judy Time and brought us this, it was like, thank God. Like, the formula, when I'm showing you guys the mattes, it is the eyeshadow palette I'm wearing on my eye right now. Like, the formula itself is crazy. It's crazy how creamy it is. It's crazy how pigmented it is. It's crazy how they just nailed it with every single shade. My favorite gold, I think, of all time, it's this gold right here. It's called Bubbly. This is one of my favorite golds, you guys. Every time I talk about this palette, oh my God, I rave about this specific eyeshadow because they just nailed the perfect gold. It's the gold that I have all over my eyelid. It's the gold that I can go to when I want that no makeup look, but I want something on my eyelid, but I don't want anything that's going to be overwhelming. I want something that's going to be natural. I want something that's going to be complimentary to me, and this is that gold. I love the black in this. I'm really not a fan of like glittery blacks, but this one, for some reason, I wore this one I think for New Year's, and I got so many compliments because it has little specks of glitter, but it's also a very dark black. This palette just came so hard, guys. It, not like that, but it came hard as in wow. Because it used to be, if we wanted a real good eyeshadow palette, we had to either order it, we had to go to Sephora, we had to drop a whole dime bag on it, and that's the world we live in. But now, the world we live in right now, like right now, we have things like this, boom. And then Pixie went ahead and did it all over again and gave us this little number. This is probably one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and I know what you guys are thinking. It's a quad, basically. Not really, because there's 6, there's not 4, but it's a smaller eyeshadow palette, and you guys are probably going to be like, why this palette? Like, what's so good about this palette? Yes, it's a very small palette. Yes, it's all basically in the same shade family. Yes, there's only 2 shimmers. I mean, it's really not that crazy of a palette. There's so many neutral palettes, but I feel like this one, you guys, look at that. Like, this one just did it right. It knew it was going to be small. It knew it was going to be simple, but they were like, you know what? If we're going to do it small, if we're going to do it little, we're going to do it right. It's your actual perfect everyday eyeshadow palette. Say you just want to go for a really, really light defined eye. Pop this guy on, pop this one in the inner corner, boom, your whole eye looks. Say you want to go for a smokier look. You have all of these to play with. Say you want to go for a little bit more dramatic, just use these bottoms. What's that word? Like, you can use this palette for a lot. Like, there's a word for it.
Not a native speaker.
It's a very versatile palette. This one lived in my makeup bag for a cute second. Then this one kicked it out, because now this one lives in my makeup bag, because this is basically like the smaller version of this, but this gives me still what I want this one to give me on a regular basis. I love this eyeshadow palette. I cannot recommend this eyeshadow palette enough. I love Pixie's packaging too. Like, one thing I really love about Pixie's packaging is they just keep it so cohesive, and it's just a very classic, very dainty, very feminine packaging. Yeah, yes, some of these products are a little bit more expensive, but they are worth it. At the end of the day, I would want you guys to spend your hard-earned money on things that you are going to be happy to use, that are not just going to collect dust, that are not just going to waste your money, because you're going to end up throwing it away anyway. I'm not going to do that. They are worth it, and I promise you that. The one palette I really do want you guys to invest in is this one. I feel like everybody should own this palette because it's so good. It's so universal. Like I've been saying, no, this video is not sponsored by Pixie, but the minute I touched this palette, I didn't set it down for a month, and that's something I just don't do, you guys. And I make makeup videos for a living. Like, my job is to review makeup, and I couldn't set this one down, so obviously I'm going to recommend this to you guys. I'm going to set it down now, and I'm just going to end the video here. If you guys have any more suggestions, please leave them in the comment section down below, because there may be some that I might have missed, and because I know I'm one of those people, and when I watch a makeup video, I go through the comments just to see like what's good. So if you guys have any other recommendations, please comment them down below, and I definitely go through the comments because you guys leave really good recommendations for me to go test out. So if there's an eyeshadow palette at the drugstore that you guys really want me to try out, that's gonna blow my mind, please let me know. I'd love to go check that out. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please use the F out of the comment section. That's what it's there for. Other than that, I don't think I have anything to sell. See, I can't set this one guy. I could have made this whole video about this guy. That's it, guys. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next video.